What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Footy with an Edge. Man United play Brighton at home this weekend in what has to be an inflection point game for Ruben Amorim, Man United, and these players. By beating Liverpool at Anfield, we didn't just do something that we haven't done in 10 years. We did something that nobody thought was possible. Amorim became the first and only manager to win both at Anfield and Etihad in the last 5 seasons. We beat the title holders at their home ground the season after finishing in 15th. We beat them with 33-year-old Casemiro in midfield, who should apparently leave the game before the game leaves him. We beat them with Bruno Fernandes as an 8, who apparently doesn't get into the Liverpool United combined 11 ahead of Alexis McAllister. And with that win, we now have just 1 point less than Arsenal and City in the last 4 games. So the absolute euphoria from that win has washed over the entire fan base. We're talking about Harry Maguire potentially getting a contract extension now. People are seeing the value of keeping Bruno at the club since he's clearly one of the best players in the league. Nobody is talking about Cunha being 008, and nobody is talking about Šeško getting dropped after scoring 2-2. But here's the thing. If we don't beat Brighton at home, it kills all of that momentum. In fact, even a draw against Brighton will be very deflating because we'll be giving away all of this momentum that the whole fan base just started getting excited about. So in this video, we're going to break down Brighton's evolution since last season and why, believe it or not, beating them at home might actually be more impressive than winning at Anfield. Last year, in Fabian Hurzler's first season in charge of Brighton, he had the 7th most average possession in the league. Now, you might not make much of this at first glance because why does it matter that they're mid-table for possession? Until you scroll up on this list and realize that the 6 teams above Brighton last year were every single one of the big 6 clubs. And I know not all of these teams actually finished in the top 6 last year, but they still went into most of their games having the onus on them to dictate play. Each of these teams, including the 15th placed United and 17th placed Tottenham, were considered the protagonists in all of their games. And other than when the big 6 played each other, the other 14 Premier League teams were happy to sit back and counterattack against them. And Brighton being number 7 on this list means that they had at least 13 other Premier League teams on average having less possession than them. Now, before you guys get in the comments mentioning specific games where they had less possession against some of the teams below them, I want to reiterate that I'm talking about the average possession across a full season. So it is a fact that cumulatively, Brighton had more of the ball than each of the 13 teams below them. Now, their possession stats from last season are very relevant to our upcoming fixture against them because this season, Brighton are 14th in terms of average possession from their first 8 games. And look, they might move up this table by the time the season is finished, but right now, they are much, much more of a counter-attacking team. And that may have something to do with their fixture list to start the season, because they started the season off against Fulham and Everton, then they played Man City at home, who is definitely in a title race with Arsenal this year. Then they played Bournemouth away, which is one of the most informed teams of the season, currently sitting in 4th place. Then they played against Tottenham, which is definitely in a top 4 race this season, immediately followed by Chelsea and Newcastle in 2 of their next 3 games. So it kind of makes sense that they've had lower possession overall from all of these first 8 games, but I was completely blown away by what I'm going to show you guys next. Here are the scores and the results for each one of Brighton's 8 Premier League games this season, and this is the possession stats for every single one of those games. And what absolutely stands out here is that Brighton has lost or drawn every single one of the games in which they had more possession than their season average of 46.6%. And every single game where they had less than their season average, they got a win except for Spurs, where they drew 2-2 after being 2-1 up till the 82nd minute of that game. And look at who the positive results are coming against, guys. Wins against Man City and Newcastle at home, win against Chelsea away, and a draw against Tottenham at home. These are all big heavyweight teams that are very difficult to get points off of, but Brighton have done it by keeping less of the ball in every single case. So to make the obvious prediction here, Brighton are going to come to Old Trafford and give us most of the ball. You can expect us to have close to 60% of the ball at home, which again makes sense. when you look at the fact that United have averaged 54% possession at home this season. Now, this right here is the reason that I think winning against Brighton in this game will be a bigger marker of success than winning at Anfield for this team. Since Amorim joined the club, we've had no problem of getting it up for the big games against the big teams. We beat Man City 2-1 in a game where we had less than 50% possession last year. We then drew 2-2 at Anfield with less than 50% possession. We also knocked Arsenal out of the FA Cup with just 30% possession. Then we drew against Arsenal in the Premier League with about 30% possession. And again, drew 0-0 against City in the reverse fixture with about 40% possession. But in so many other games last season, when the onus was on us to be the protagonist of a game, we wouldn't know what to do with the ball and we would lose the game. When we lost 3-2 at home to Nottingham Forest and 1-0 away at Forest, we had an average possession of 70% across those two games. When we lost 3-0 at home to Bournemouth, we had 60% possession. When we lost 2-0 at home to Crystal Palace, we had 67% possession. And finally, with 60% possession, we lost 1-0 at home to Wolves. So you get the picture here, guys. We have won with less possession against big teams in tough fixtures before. Like we said at the beginning, we beat City at Etihad last season, and we beat Liverpool at Anfield this season. But beating a team that wants to give us 60% possession at home, that's something we haven't done very often. So on the back of that Anfield victory, if we can go into this game against Brighton, the team that has very clearly been a giant killer this season, I will feel like E.T. himself has descended from the heavens, touched my forehead and said, "Ruben's at the wheel. Tell me how good does it feel?" Now, the only thing left to do is to go take a look at some clips from Brighton's win against Man City, because I feel like it's going to be the closest comparison of what's going to happen in this game. So City went 1-0 up in this game in the first half with Haaland, and Brighton were happy to sit in this kind of 5-2-3 shape for most of the first half, with Minte playing as the right wing back right behind my head here, Mitoma as the right cam here, Welbeck as the left cam, and Diego Gomez as the striker. This is very much a kind of a mid-block shape that you see here, where Brighton's pressing trigger would be whenever the ball moved up, either through the wings or moved into one of these central players up ahead. And because City are this dominant team that just love having tons of possession, Brighton kept getting pushed further and further back into this low block shape, with City's two center backs and Bernardo Silva basically sitting at the edge of the final third, and the rest of the City team providing width and packing the midfield in the middle. Now, Hurzler's plan was very much to just sit back, soak up the pressure, and find moments to counterattack this team. And they were fairly successful at doing that because they kept City down to just two big chances despite giving up 64% possession in the first half, and Haaland only scored one of those two big chances, so they went into halftime 1-0 down. Now, after they conceded that first goal, and for the rest of the second half, Hurzler switched to a 4-2-3-1 formation, with Minte moving up to be the right winger, Mitoma off the left, and Welbeck and Gomez through the middle. Now you can see the back four shape here, Baleba and Hinchelwood in midfield, Veltman hugging the touchline on the right side, and De Kuyper hugging the touchline at left back. Now, from this long ball that he's about to play into De Kuyper here, the ball moves forward into Mitoma, who lays it off to Welbeck first time, and if this karate move from Welbeck to Mitoma comes off, De Kuyper is basically straight in behind the City defense on the left-hand side because they don't have anybody here. So this shows us the first thing that we need to be worried about against Brighton. They are very decent against the high press. They're not afraid to spread the pitch wide, play quick passes or long passes between each other, and get in behind the opposition. Now, United has been a really good pressing team this season, but we have to be really careful not to overcommit on the press because Mitoma, Minte, De Kuyper, Gruda, and Jorginho Rutter all have pace to burn, and they can easily get into the spaces in between the center back and the wing backs on both sides of our pitch. But we know a strength of this team has been to start off both halves with a high intensity, high press, so we should still try to press them, just don't overcommit. The other thing that Brighton were more willing to do in that second half is press much higher up the pitch. Here we see Mitoma, Baleba, and De Kuyper all hounding Bernardo Silva near the touchline, and then seconds later, you see they continue that high press with basically going man-to-man against City all over the pitch, with Diego Gomez pressing Stones up here, and eventually they take the press all the way up to Trafford, who's forced to kick it long. So Brighton still played counter-attacking football in that second half, but they were much more willing to move up from the low block and the mid block to press City, especially because they were trailing in the game. So United will definitely need to have good composure on the ball across the back three, and of course from Lamens as well. Another thing we have to worry about in this game is the set piece threat, because here's an example from the 65th minute where Brighton played long to the far post to Lewis Dunk over here. He then tries to play it back across goal and it strikes the arm of Matheus Nunes and it's a handball. So Brighton win the penalty and James Milner scores it against his former side. Again, this seems very similar to the Brentford game where they got the ball up the pitch and tried to win a free kick or put in a long throw into the box. So we need to be really careful about switching off in the box from set piece situations, and this is where someone like Maguire could be super handy. Now we go to the 89th minute of this game, and Verbruggen has just played this out to the left back. He looks up and immediately tries playing it long towards Mitoma, who's at left wing, and look at how aggressive Brighton are here to try to win that game. They have Mitoma, Ruter, Gruda, and Minte, all of their fastest players right on the last line of City's defense, and City are kind of caught out here because they're still trying to press high, so one long ball, and they're exposed like this 4v3. Now Mitoma loses that first duel to Stones, but Kuiper wins the second one and knocks it forward towards Mitoma and Ruter here. And City are basically 4v2 now, so real trouble is starting to form up. Ruter manages to win this ball ahead of Kusanov, and then Mitoma has a simple pass through to Gruda, and he's straight through in the middle. Now Gruda gets this ball ahead of Aid Nuri and drops Trafford inside the box and scores into an empty net. So this is now a second similarity to that Brentford game where they're willing to soak up the pressure and play on the counterattack with really fast players. The difference with Brighton is that they are even better than Brentford at playing out from the back. So every time they manage to beat our press, they'll basically have an opportunity to run in behind our defense. And this is a scary, scary prospect. So let's talk about the starting 11 to finish things off. So in this game, United is going to have the dual threat of counterattacks and set pieces, just like we did against Brentford. So in my opinion, the back three should be Shaw, De Ligt, and Euro, because we need the recovery pace against Brighton's front four. I know Maguire scored the winner at Anfield, and he probably deserves to start on merit, but if Amorim can drop someone like Šeško after scoring 2 and 2, just because he wants to win a specific game, he can drop Maguire in this one and start Shaw, De Ligt, and Euro. I'd also like to see Dorgu start this game on the left-hand side because I want him to get better with minutes in this team. He's more of the profile of an Amorim wingback than Dalot is or Masraoui is, so I want to see him being able to put in those crosses that are needed, interchange with the rest of the front three, and also use his recovery pace on the counterattacks against Brighton. I do have a feeling, though, that he's going to stick with Dalot and bring Dorgu off the bench, but I think this is what the starting 11 should be. Now, Ahmad, Mbeumo, and Mount should also all be starting in this game without a doubt, because I think they're finally starting to find some form and stability in these positions. The big question is whether Šeško or Cunha starts. In my opinion, there's a strong case to be made for both players, but I think Šeško should get the nod, because when we're playing against a low block team that has 9 men behind the ball, which is what I think it's going to be in this game, we need a reference point in the box to occupy the center backs. We also need a physical presence to win aerial duels and second balls. And we need that sort of rebound and chaos generation when crosses come in, much like the goal that Šeško scored against Brentford. Now, if Brighton decides to abandon their game plan and play further up the pitch against us, Cunha will be helpful in those scenarios because he can pull their center backs out of position and create space in behind for Mbeumo, Ahmad, Mount, and Dorgu. But Brighton are much more likely to play a compact low block, which occasionally becomes a mid block against us. So I think we have to start Šeško in the 9 and bring Cunha on for Mount in the second half. So there you have it. This should be our starting 11 against Brighton, and I think we can go win this game 2 or 3-1. Let me know what your score prediction is in the comments down below with a hashtag prediction. Do you guys agree with everything that I identified in this game? Are you confident about winning this game? Let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.